Good morning, Jack.
You're such a good boy. You woke up.
The time change made a difference, but I also have to say there was a chance that I would have freaked out again because I stayed up till 3 last night, past 3. So gotta stop doing that. Anyway, how are you in the intervening 22 hours or whatever it's been?
Uh, I I have an upstairs downstairs house, and the primary um, fiber optic modem is downstairs. So in order to run a LAN upstairs, I had to get a Wi-Fi modem, which so I've gone through five of them. And it's odd because I started with a little $34 one. It's a little pocket modem.
Hmm.
And I bought two of them, and one of them is downstairs for the color TV because it didn't have it in any other way to connect to the modem.
Hmm.
And that one's still running, and that's been 4 years, 5 years. But upstairs, I've gone through five of them. So this time I bought a little more expensive version, but I also bought a 4 year warranty on it. So that arrives this morning.
Did you, by a chance, do it at Costco?
No, I bought it at I don't do Costco. I bought it at Amazon.
Okay, yeah.
Now this I'm talking to you from upstairs, but my laptop can talk to the downstairs modem. But if I want to use my GPU or any of my other Linux boxes, I have to be on the upstairs modem with a laptop in order to be in its network. And so that's all going to come back online today.
So are you saying we potentially may have moments where your connection may not be great?
Well, my connectivity for downstairs, no, the Wi-Fi, the transmitter downstairs is very strong. I mean, I can talk to it from the car outside. It's really, and hell, I when I look at my Wi-Fi network, I see neighbors all over the place.
Right. Yep.
So the core basic Wi-Fi router is very strong, but these little guys, um, they're not really that strong. Although when I'm in the other room, I can talk to it, but
Yeah.
it's uh, it's a little tiny pocket modem that you're supposed to take with you when you travel to isolate yourself from everything else.
Yep. I've mostly dismantled it because I've been preparing to leave this place. But the house that you visited a couple of times, Jack,
Yep.
I way overdid it. I got a mesh network in here, and when it was brand new and well regarded, I got Google's Mesh, which I think is based on Nest. And man, was it good. I had in this place, which has an upstairs and a downstairs, I had 8 of those access points scattered through the house. So I could go anywhere and had really strong connectivity. I could have done with maybe 3 or 4 and been plenty saturated already. But I got some. Of course, I have 3 to begin with because the set comes with 3. But then I liked it so much, I decided to get additional sets just for backup. and also for the place across the street. Now, actually, the place across the street doesn't need more than one access point. It reaches the rest of the house fine. Uh, so anyway, I just like that device, and now I don't know. It's been at least 5 or 6 years since I got that. So there's probably better devices now, but I'm still very happy with those devices. When I get someplace new, I'll probably just redeploy those again.
Why are you moving?
Oh, I haven't told you. Um, I'm a naturalized immigrant, Jack. I am not, I don't present as white. And I've been very vocal
My,
and
my
outspoken.
daughter is naturalized immigrant, so
So those are the people, the brown people, that ICE is coming for sooner or later. And I've also been, probably unlike your daughter, I've been very outspoken and anti-current administration. And they're now starting to check social media on your phones and elsewhere as you cross borders. So I believe the next time I cross a border, it's one way out. I don't think I'll be able to get back in.
um, do you mean cross the border by airline or cross the border by car or what?
Anyone, because ICE is staffing all of those entry points.
Okay, so your plan to move is when?
Well, I just last Sunday reached some terms of agreement with a potential renter across the street and also a property manager for this particular place.
Yeah,
So I'm
that's
going to
that's
try and
useful.
I'm going to try and rent both of these places, but there's certain dependencies on how quickly I can empty out these places and vacate. So I'm also trying to get a storage container so that I can put everything into the storage container, into that 5 acre place. And then all the furniture and all the stuff can go in there. And then I can clean it up, replace the appliances, fix some small little cabinetry things. Um, and so I'm thinking probably optimistically, I don't expect all of that to take place within 2 months, but 2 to 3 months, I'm hoping I'll be free because right now I don't feel free.
And then where would you go?
I've narrowed it down to 6 places, three in the Far East, three in Europe. So the three in the Far East, and the number one contender appears to be Hua Hin, Thailand. But then Vietnam and Japan look really, really good. And then in Europe, Italy looks really, really good. But then the other two surprising contenders are, well, maybe three contenders. Estonia comes in a strong number two. And then either Albania or Montenegro. Little far off the beaten path places, but they seem to have a lot of nice advantages. So those are the places I'm considering, Jack.
So you don't want to wait around for the midterms where there's a strong potential that the Republicans will get neutered and the heat from ICE will come down.
I think that the damage done to this country is within 2 decades not recoverable. It'll take at least two, maybe 3 decades to recover from. It took Germany a long time to recover from their problems. And I'm not just talking about concentration camps. I'm talking about damage to the citizenry, the need for education reform, the need for justice reform, the need for really acknowledging that there is a constitution that does need to be defended and that at least 2 or 3 generations have had it too good. They just assume that we just count on having a constitutional freedom forever. So we have two generations who didn't realize that a lot of people died and fought to actually have the freedom that this country used to enjoy. We don't have those freedoms anymore. People are getting picked up off the streets. First Amendment rights are being squashed with impunity. People being trafficked right and left. Gerrymandering is occurring, with no regard to what's fair and representative. Um, the Supreme Court is as corrupt as I could imagine, and that's going to take a long time to reverse. We have a Citizens United, which will not get reversed as long as the Supreme Court is corrupt. So we have to address the Supreme Court issue before Citizens United gets reversed. All of those things. And then we have another half a generation or more of young folk who have grown up thinking this level of stupidity, this level of misogyny, of racism, of oppression, of fully expressed cruelty is normal. So that's why we have the Andrew Tates. That's why we have the passport bros. That's why we have people that are just not going on dates anymore. Uh, so all of that, in my opinion, will take more than two, possibly more than 3 decades. And I'm not sure I got that time. And I can still be very vocal in anti-administration and organize and do that sort of thing outside this country, as long as internet connectivity isn't shut off. So those are all very, very serious issues. Any single one of them would be a serious issue. But in combination, it has killed this country. Now, you then ask yourself, or I ask myself, how many civilizations had its heyday, began to go down the downward slope, and then managed to recover and then attain a new zenith? How many civilizations? I don't know of any. Once they come down, they're just going to accelerate that descent. So that's what I see, Jack. Over.
Well, I see it too, but I don't. I don't think that you know through my lens, leaving the country uh, is walking away from it. And the old saying of "stay and fight" um, has kind of always applied to me. But I think the word "fight" is the wrong word in these times. I I think behaving smarter rather than simply using the limbic system to say fuck you and go crazy. Um, we need to change the narrative, and that's that's my mission.
I respect that mission. I also have that. I also all I also think that resist or fight or push back, we can talk about the nuances of each of those. I do think that the brilliance that I saw from Portland was the frog. That to me was a brilliant move. It was not violent, it was peaceful, and yet it was direct protest. And dozens of others followed and supported those. So, in fact, I showed you my box yesterday, right? Didn't I?
Your
Yeah.
box.
Yeah, my parrot. No? Anyway.
Not sure.
Um, okay, and never mind. So, at the next protest, I will join them. So, I believe in taking action. And I believe that up till now, that taking action has been spreading the news, getting people to consider the straits that we're in. Um, but I do think that there is a measure of threat that people of color face that white people don't face. And I do
Yeah,
think
I'm
it's
aware of
serious.
that threat. I'm aware of that threat. That threat has been around since I was a child, actually. I mean, we didn't. You do know the story of how Chinese got the right to be citizens.
It took a long time. It
Well,
took over 100 years.
I mean, it did, but what was really amazing is in the 1906 San Francisco earthquake. Um, it was the Chinese that rebuilt the city, and that meant that they got control of the immigration offices because they were rebuilding the buildings. So they set it up so that they could bring up to 8 or 10 or something of their family members from China. And what they did is they just sold those name spots to anybody they wanted, and that opened the floodgates. But
I'll
it
have to
was,
look
I
into
think
that.
it was 1954 that either Truman or Eisenhower, one of those, said, "Wait a minute, this is all wrong. Chinese are going to be American citizens."
Yeah. Yeah, 50s and 60s were good for civil rights, women's rights, minorities. All that happened in the 50s and 60s, back when people were living that upswell coming out of the war. And people thought civilization was good in the United States. And TV was spreading that message, the canonical family in the United States. But we've been on a downhill swing ever since Citizens United. That was
Yep. So that was
that is the
pivotal.
problem. And that was what, 2010 earlier, 2011, 15,
Something like
16,
that.
17
Yeah.
years ago.
It's been a while.
Yeah, yeah. And then you get, perjuring Supreme Court justice nominees, and the confirmation committees seem to be okay with perjury. And so again, we have hundreds of these federal servants sucking up tax monies and not delivering on their duties and their sworn oaths. Not to mention the hundreds of thousands and millions in our armed services who took an oath to defend the Constitution and yet are just sitting by watching all of this happen. So, yes, there is an upswell from last Tuesday. Yes, there will be repercussions in the midterm elections, but Trump is doing everything possible to not have elections anymore in this country. He's just
Well,
looking for some excuse to declare martial law, and then we will have no more elections. So that could
and
happen any day.
Eric Adams is stacking the housing board so that it reduces the ability for Mamdani to do rent control.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of racism out in New York as well. Yep. Although they seem to be one of the more enlightened communities because they were the ones who put in Letitia, well, what was her last name? And she's prosecuted Trump successfully via jury trial and convicted him on a number of fronts. So New York knows he's a criminal, but the rest of the country doesn't get it. And then we have the rest of his posse, the people who have brown noses. Anyway, I don't want to, appear all negative here, but the situation is very serious. So I've taken measures. In fact, Jack, one of the reasons I came up to Washington is to be close to the border. If I'm going to fly again, I'm not going to fly out of a U.S. airport where the air traffic controllers haven't been paid in, several weeks. I'm going to drive across the border and fly out of Vancouver.
Yeah.
My brother is in Taiwan right now, so we'll see whether he gets back into the country. He's supposed to arrive this Tuesday in about 2 days. He's visiting my parents. He's a federal government employee. He works for the Congressional Research Service. I suspect he'll get back. He has not been vocal like I have been, about the social trends. But he's going to have to contend with airports that may or may not function, at spec. They're not going to be at spec. He showed me pictures of airport flight boards, were red, canceled, 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 delay, canceled, delay, delay, delay,
Yep.
canceled.
Yep.
Yeah. So you got airports with hundreds of people trying to figure out which flight they're going to manage to get onto. So I would love to say, Jack, come visit me again, but that likelihood, at least for this location, is dwindling day by day. But you could visit me in Thailand or Estonia.
Yeah. Well, international travel for me is with dialysis is out of the question. So,
I understand. Yeah.
I mean, I would mm, love to go to Japan again and visit Yuzuru, but I just don't see how it could work.
Yeah. Actually, if I do manage to make it to the Far East, I will ask you for Yuzuru's contact info and see if that visit might be possible.
I can give you his email address.
I might have it, but yeah, that would be great if you would just send that
The one
again.
that you have may be old. Let me.
Undoubtedly, it's old. Yeah,
Okay, just a minute. Because he's no longer at
the university.
Hokkaido.
Right.
Yes. So I'll put it in the chat.
Okay. Tadaka at hrr.or.jp. Okay. Okay. All right.
He is an adjunct professor at University of Alberta. And that connection comes from um, oh crap, I forgot his name. Um, the when I first went to Japan, the first person that Tanaka introduced me to was this professor from Alberta, and he and Linda hit it off, and we got a lot of gabs on, and so forth. And then he invited me up to uh, Alberta to do a 1 hour brown bag on AI.
Hmm.
And um, he's been a prologue guy, whereas Tanaka really doesn't buy prologue.
We'll have to ask him about data log.
Well, data log and prologue are two of the same species with just minor variations. So I don't know that Tanaka would remember that Tanaka was the original advisor to the Japan Fifth Generation project.
Yep, yep.
And he told me he thought it was kind of misguided.
Well, Prolog certainly had some problems that I don't think hardware could have solved. Datalog is not trying to do exactly the same problem, and it's evolved much further than Prolog has.
Well,
But
it
yes,
is
I would like his.
data log is interesting, and Datomic made the data log jar file freely downloadable, but they didn't open source it, which I think pisses me off.
But there are other Datalog open source packages out there, at
Oh,
least
I've
two of
played
them.
with a lot of them. Yes,
Yeah,
a hell
I
of a lot of
remember.
them.
I asked you to as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I've even tried to do limited amount of topic mapping in Datalog. I did so
Hmm.
in Prolog as well. Um, the primary open source Prolog engine, um, my
Prolog.
problem with it is it didn't scale.
Yeah, Prolog didn't scale. But are you talking
Pro,
Prolog or Datalog?
Prolog,
Right. Yeah,
but
I didn't think Prolog
Datalog,
would scale.
I've got on my I have in one of my GitHub repos a a data log Java data log engine that runs on relational databases. And it was even the subject of PubMed PMC documents. It was widely being pushed, and it was a probabilistic data log. And I noticed that it was on this website. You could just download the tarballs. And then there was this in memoriam at the website. It said that the professor who had started the project got killed in a motorcycle accident. So I wrote to the senior professor at that university and I said, "Would you mind if I put that thing up on GitHub?" And he says, "By all means."
Hmm.
So I did. And a fellow that I know immediately went in and did a pull request to do some modifications to it. That it
Hmm.
it included its tests in the main code,
Hmm.
and this kid pulled all the tests out into a test branch, and um, got it
My
as
Bluetooth is
you.
still very good, and I'm still going to be getting coffee, but I can still interact with good
Yeah,
audio.
and watching you walk into the sunlight is pretty amusing. And by the way, I've got to go move my laundry into the dryer. So I'm on Bluetooth as well. Um,
Not extend that far.
I've got iPods in my ears. Okay, he said.
So you can still hear me, right?
I hear you. It was breaking up a little. I don't know what breaking up means. Could be on my end.
Yeah. Sounds like it's pixelating from a sound
That's
standpoint.
what it's doing to me too.
Yeah.
It's probably because I'm in a room with these metal washing machines. All right.
Okay. It's done. I'm coming back upstairs.
All right.
Are you back?
Yeah, I'm trying to be back, but I keep dropping socks. Um, and I now have to hang up my wet pants. I don't run them in the dryer.
Well, good timing because now I am back.
Isn't that special?
What a coincidence. A laundry task and a coffee make, same time.
We're such good boys. I'm
You
not
know, Jack, go ahead.
I can't drink coffee. I mean, I'd love to.
Mhm.
Linda boils up a big pot of it in the morning and the smell is just so fucking awesome. And then, but I can't touch it.
Yeah, I understand. I've gone through periods where I used to not drink coffee at all. Then I did get that habit. And then I tried to avoid it because I thought, not a good thing. And then news comes back and forth and everything rebalances. So I'm back into a coffee drinking phase.
Well, you keep reading these headlines about coffee reducing heart palpitations and coffee doing this and coffee doing that. But some people, myself included, apparently have a genomic structure that really does not, cannot do the caffeine.
Hmm, okay.
I remember years ago, uh, I had a lot of jitters, and somebody said, "Why don't you just stop drinking Coke?" So I stopped drinking Coke. And oh, Jesus, did I start getting headaches? So
Mhm.
I asked my physician friend what's going on. He says, "Oh, well, you're in caffeine withdrawal. Just take Tylenol and be done with it." Um, it took a couple of weeks to get through that, and then it was over. But the funny thing is that years later, um, my son, when he was roughly 3 years old, well, he's 4 years old, something like that. I walked into the kitchen behind him when he was yelling at his mother,
At 4?
and I did it for he. Well, so what happens? So Normally I would take him in the living room and threaten to spank him or whatever, but this time I said, I have an idea. I said, you and I are going off chocolate, and you're not going to drink any more caffeinated drinks.
At
And he
4?
said,
Oh
at
no, this is
four.
when he's an adult. Wait,
He was four.
and he was drinking coffee?
No, he was drinking caffeinated Cokes. He loved
Okay, okay, okay.
the
I get it.
caffeinated drinks,
Okay, I get it.
and he loved chocolate. And so I took him off the chocolate. What I was doing was interfering with his sleep.
Yeah,
And within a week of all of that, he finally figured it out on his own why I did that.
that is awesome. At
And
4.
at four. And so when he went to we would take him up to school when we would his at lunchtime and give him a quarter. It was preschool. He wasn't in school. His sister was in school, but we would take him up to the school at lunchtime and let him give him a quarter, and he would go buy a lunch. And they would always put a little thing with chocolate on it on his tray. And you'd watch him and he would immediately give it to whoever was sitting next to him.
That's remarkable at that age.
Yeah, that just blew me away. So then, a couple years later, he and I went on a overnight camp out with the Boy Scouts from the Mormon Church, and they were making s'mores. And I said, I'll tell you what, you can have one s'more, but you'll have to live with it. And goddamn, he loved it, but he didn't ask for more.
You know, Jack, from where I sit, you've done a good job parenting, and by that I mean set an example for your kids. That information can influence decisions, which can then influence actions. You did a good job of that, Jack.
Well, I like to think that, yeah, we did. Now, he's the son who lived with a Chinese girl for 10 years. We invited them to come with us to Hawaii when we got married, but they had just started dating, and he said, "No, it's too soon." And uh, not that many months later, we were at a theater, and I told her that I had invited you guys to come with us to Hawaii. And she
Mhm.
said, "Well, ask us again," she said. And so after living together for 10 years, she takes him to a hotel in San Francisco, wines and dines him, gets down on her knees and proposes because he didn't do it. He wasn't gonna. And at their wedding vows, she said, "I'm going to tell you what he said." He said, "No shit, is this for real?"
Which made it a story for the wedding itself.
It well, and so first of all, she's a dynamo. She actually was HR at his second job in game design. And she took one look at him and basically mentally said, "That one's for me." And so she got really aggressive and they started dating.
So she had a
Now her
checklist. Check,
father,
check, 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 check.
her father, when we went to the wedding rehearsal, uh, um, I asked her father how he came to America. Her parents are Burmese, and he came to America with just a few dollars and got a job as a muni bus driver and worked his way up to become the the head of Muni, which is living the American dream.
Wow.
And so it's not a surprise to me that his kids were also well raised.
Good to hear those stories, Jack. I hear too many
Well,
stories of the other kind.
yeah, it drives me bug fuck to watch other parents wrecking their kids.
Yeah.
My daughter has finished the third version of her sci-fi fantasy novel, and goddamn can she write. Jesus H. Christ can she write. I
How old
I
is she?
I I always, look, I write technical books. I did a wind power book and I edited and co-authored an XML topic maps book. But when you write a long fantasy novel, you have to set the stage, introduce the actors, introduce the relations, and then they will come back later in the story, and then there will be twists and turns, and even without studying the mythology of adventures, the hero's journey, she has it naturally.
Hmm. How old is she?
She would be She's 1986. So she
14
would
plus
be
25, 39
38,
something.
39. Ah, she just
Yeah.
she just turned 39, yes.
Okay.
October 19th.
Good age.
And she
Especially for
married
writing.
well. Her husband was she was 25 and he was 34. I mean, I can remember her asking me about somebody getting married to somebody when she was 22. And I said, I want to ask you a question. I said, do you have any 18-year-old friends? And she says, yeah. And I said, do you think they're airheads? And she said, yes. And I said, okay, now imagine you at 25. Do you think you'll look back at a 22-year-old and think they're airheads? She says, I get it.
Hmm. Very good.
There's a physiological story that female brains really settle in at about age 25.
And male brains hardly ever,
And male brains take a lot longer, yes.
if they do.
Well, her husband is uh, she said, Dad, I want you to come up to San Francisco and meet my boyfriend. So we went to a movie and walked with him. I walked with him to a restaurant. We ate. When I got home that evening, she called me and she said, "What do you think?" And I said, "If you don't marry that guy, I'm going to kill you." And it turns out that when he introduced Nefer to his parents, his mother told him the same thing.
Could have had two dead bodies.
Yeah, two dead bodies. So I have to say both of I think I think that was a measure of success.
It is. It is. I'm looking at a list of questions, and none of them have good segues from what we're talking about.
You got really quiet. I don't know what that means.
Okay, let me speak up. I was actually speaking not very audibly, but I was saying I'm looking at my list of questions that I normally come to these meetings with, and none of them is a really good segue topic based on what we've been speaking about.
Well, I'm only a few minutes away from exiting and going
Okay,
into the word Cunningham
okay,
Zoom.
all right. Well, let
Um,
me just tease you then by saying I've got 24 questions all lined up here for future conversations. In fact, I'll throw you one. We don't have to talk about it, but I'll throw you one that is probably more within our shared mutual interest. And it's a question. Can I ask you a question, Jack?
Go for it.
Is a graph an optimal mental knowledge model?
When you say optimal, you really need to think about the word optimal.
Yes. And there lies the invitation.
See, if you when you say model, that's the right thing. Um, but you watched the Stuart Hinton thing, and so you
Not yet.
know. Oh well, it's. I would suggest watching it at 1.25 or 1.5,
Yeah.
but um, and I put up to OGM Hinton with slides. It's basically the same talk, except he's using slides,
Mhm.
and he's with in front of the Royal Society rather than John Stewart. But um, there's no graph in your brain. You could say there is a graph as defined by the wiring of neurons and synapses.
And
There is that kind of a
associations.
graph. Yes. But when we do knowledge graphs, we have grandmother nodes. And there are no grandmother nodes in your brain. Now, if you did a Bayesian network, you wouldn't have a grandmother node. You would have a zillion nodes for for aspects of being old, aspects of being gray haired, aspects of being this, that, and the other thing. And it turns out that many of those same nodes will fire about your grandfather.
And we spoke about this yesterday, I remember.
Yes. So you don't build grandmother nodes in Bayes. I used to think that's what I was going to do, but that's not what you do. Um, and topic maps are fundamentally grandmother nodes. Um, Fortunately, in a topic map or in a knowledge graph, you have the opportunity to link. your grandmother nodes to all of the other attributes of grandmotherness and oldness and gray hairedness and blah, blah, blah. You can do that. But I don't know that a graph of grandmother nodes is necessarily optimal.
Okay. May I give you one thought from myself?
Well, of course.
Okay. So I take a look at semantic web attempts to try and come up with these grand unified mapping theories and grand unified ontology theories, et cetera, et cetera. And I say it doesn't properly or adequately recognize context. So I would rather that in any event, let's say you and I in a conversation, let's call that an event. I would rather that we each have hundreds, thousands, millions, perhaps, of little micro taxonomies. So you have a little micro taxonomy about ancestorness. I have a little micro taxonomy about parentage. You have a little micro taxonomy about age. I have a micro taxonomy about relationships. And our shared mutual communication is about assessing which of those micro taxonomies, multiples of them, are in application in this interaction. And then to be able to suss out what might be in your model, what is actually active for you, so that we can do that dynamic mapping. So to me, what's more interesting about shared meaning co-creation is dynamic combination and mapping of microtaxonomies. And that's what to me makes interaction interesting. Not that some committee, defined the taxonomy of all taxonomies or ontology of all ontologies 20 or 30 years ago and said, you must use this set of tuples. Okay. To me, that's going down the wrong path. To me, the key is being dynamic, being adaptive, learning to apply certain taxonomies and not others. Like, for example, I don't need to bring in a little micro taxonomy about um, phylogeny, from biology in this particular context. But there is a micro taxonomy that does apply here. So that to me is more interesting. And that to me says, forget all of these committee efforts to try and come up with the standard book, standard, 2012.4.7/4. Okay. That's by definition going to be inadequate and improper. So that's my take on this. Over.
So many of the grand ontologies were created by professional communities to normalize their communication. Physicians have whole and physicists and chemists and so on and so forth. But you're talking about conversation in general, and there I think
Yes.
we're in agreement. And one of the things about Leonard, this is interesting, he was pure expert systems and logic until he started doing psych. And then somebody walked in the door and said, you can't. You need something else. And they brought in something from some historical writing called microtheories. And microtheories are your micro taxonomies. So you're on the right track. I wish you would go into Matrix and join our group, and we'll create a channel for you. And well, I mean, you're already there, but we'll create a channel where you can engage with Marc Antoine and Sunny and Yasu about what you just said because it's really important.
Okay. Thank you, Jack, for that reminder of the invitation. I wrote that down as a to do for myself, which is more than I did yesterday. So,
Well,
I'll do that.
We
All
want
right.
to
But
get the
anyway,
best from you we can before you leave town. You know what I'm saying?
I will still be as accessible to you from Vietnam or Thailand or Estonia. In fact, probably more so from Estonia than I am here. By the way, you know Estonia is considered the Silicon Valley of Europe?
Yeah, they'll even grant you citizenships and all kinds of things. There's some really cool things about Estonia. Yes.
Yes. Yes. And I don't think they have any desert, and I don't think it's super hot there. In fact, quite the opposite.
Well,
So,
except that it's if I recall my geography rightly, it's right in the path of what Russia's got in mind.
yes, they do share a border with Russia, which is the one downside there. Yes, I agree.
It's the big downside for me.
Well, I was seriously considering Taiwan because that's where my parents are, and obviously China is right next
China
door
is
to.
there.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I have friends that rave about that have moved literally. Sam Hahn, the tech editor of my XML topic maps book, moved to what was that other country you just named?
Estonia,
No, Asia.
Albania,
No, Asia.
Montenegro. Oh, Asia, Vietnam,
Not
or
that one.
Thailand, Japan.
Thailand.
Yes.
Yes, and and uh, and he loves it.
Is
Um,
that a different Sam Han?
that's the Sam Hahn that was the editor of my book.
Okay.
Um, and but I have to say there are these little country villages in Japan that if they would let you, moving there looks really ideal.
Exactly. That's why I'm looking. Okay. I'm really, see, that's what makes it so perfect for me because I don't need to be near a bustling civilization. I don't need to be near nightlife. All I need to be near is some good food, reasonable distance, good air, good electricity, good water, which I think Japan has, probably more so than most of those other Asian countries.
Well,
And
then so
then,
you should talk to Yuzuru and ask him, tell him you're thinking about leaving this country and Japan is on your list.
perfect, perfect, perfect. That's a good way to reconnect with Yuzu. Dr. Tanaka. Yes, thank you very much, Jack. That was worth a call all by itself. Thank you.
There
Not that
you
the rest of
go.
it wasn't, but that all by itself did it. I'll
Yeah,
fire off
I
an
I
email to him.
fire off an email to him. I've noticed that he's been slow to respond, and I
That's
don't
okay.
know
I
why that
understand.
is.
He's in retired life. It's okay. I get it. Yeah. Actually, trivia question. Is he older than you are?
No, he's
Uh,
1952. I'm 1944.
okay. I'm younger than both of you, at least for now.
Yeah, no, you're the kid on the block.
Yeah. Did I tell you the story that last week some 55-year-old woman called me a kid?
Called you what?
A
A
kid.
kid?
She said, I'm older than you are. And I said, I'll bet you you're not. And I was right. Yeah. Anyway,
Was she
I
a
brought up that.
prospect?
No, 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 no. She was just somebody that was very friendly at the DMV.
Ah,
Yeah. It was a casual, one of these great casual daily encounters that are friendly.
those are rare.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I brought up that topic simply because I thought, hey, it'd be good to talk about in the future. And yes, maybe Matrix is that future. Maybe a different, morning here is that future. Maybe we can get your guys, your posse to come and join as well. Or you set it up on your own schedule like you have done a couple of times. But I would love to talk about that topic. And that's only one of a couple dozen I've got stacked up here.
Well, you want Marc Antoine engaged in that one.
Okay. Very good.
And I'll give you a heads up.
Okay.
He is completely settled on frame-based representation.
Frame plus plus or frames as was?
Basically, his variant of frames is going to be frames plus plus.
Of course. That's what I would assume.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I doubt that anybody will go back to the old key days, you know.
No. All
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
I'm
That's a
going
good
to run.
conversation. All right, Jack.
See
Thank
you.
you very much. Appreciate your
Yep.
perspective. Thank you for the
Thank you.
connection and the email and an action item. So, two action items came out of this.
Great.
All right. See you later, Jack. Bye for now.